चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back to the Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion Bhakti Shastri course. Yesterday we began with the discussion on the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, which we are going to study. We will be studying Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami with the insights of Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion summary study, along with the Acharya's commentaries. Yesterday we saw this meaning of what Srila Jiva Goswami has to say about Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. He presented the textbook Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu based on the thesis of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He extracted the rasa from the Srimad Bhagavatam and presented a textbook in the form of Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And especially bhakti or bhav. One devotee was giving a class and he said, bhav ko kaise definition de sakte hain hum? How can you give a definition to bhav? Bhav is bhav, you say. Bhav means emotions. So these kind of speculations we might come through, but Rupa Goswami has given a specific scientific definition of what is bhav, bhava bhakti, what is prema bhakti, what is sadhana bhakti, what is uttama bhakti. So the whole bhakti, which is speaking about devotion means emotions of the heart, but he's all giving philosophical, intellectual definitions. So he has extracted the rasa from the Srimad Bhagavatam and presented the science of rasa in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu as a form of a textbook. So it is a textbook on rasa. It's a very philosophical textbook. It's not something emotional or bhavak, you know. So we will see that as we study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And then we went into that the Nectar of Devotion of Prabhupada is, it's not a translation, but it is a summary study. And what is a summary study? Yesterday we saw that. Prabhupada gave teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna book, summary study, but later on he gave original commentaries to those CC and Bhagavatam. Similarly, he had given Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu summary study in the form of Nectar of Devotion. Later on, he could not give because of the emergency. Now it is available, and that is why it is important that we study this. We also saw the contents of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sindhu is ocean, the eastern, southern, the western, and the northern ocean. And what are the chapter contents? Laharis, the waves. And in our Bhakti Shastri course, we will be only studying the eastern side. In fact, the science of rasa is elaborated in the southern division. And without understanding the science of rasa, we cannot come to these different types of rasa, namely Shant, Dasya, Vatsalya, and the Gaun rasas. So in that sense, the science of rasa is very, very important. And later on, as we study the Bhakti Rasamrita in the first division, that is the eastern division, many times, then slowly we should study the science of rasa. And then we can enter into actually the Bhakti Ras. So we saw this, and then we saw what we'll be studying in the first wave, the preface, Vastu Nirdesh, definition of pure devotional service, and the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. Now, since yesterday we began the description of the preface, we discussed paragraphs 1 to 5 about the brief history. Rupa Goswami's meeting with Lord Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya's universal principle, how they joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Rupa Goswami and the scholarship of 6 Goswamis. We saw the meaning of Upanaga and why did Rupa Goswami prepare Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, so that we can become solidly situated in Krishna consciousness. So that's where we ended our discussion yesterday. So now today, we will go to the next part of the theme of the preface, that is meaning of the term Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is from paragraph 6 to 8. Now, Bhakti, Rasa, Amrita, and Sindhu. So there are these 4 terms, and Bhakti means devotional service, and Rasa, Prabhupada defines the attractive feature of or pleasure derived from any service which drives the servitor progressively on and on. It is a kind of mellow relationship whose taste is very sweet. So this is how he defined rasa in his preface. And we will go more into the science of rasa as how Bhaktivinoda Thakur defines to understand, and that will be also overview to the southern division of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And Amrita means perpetual or eternal. This rasa which we relish in devotional service to the Lord, this is eternal rasa. This is not material rasa in relationship to the things of this world. And then there is a Sindhu, Sindhu meaning ocean. So let us see the meaning of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So let us first go to the term Bhakti. Now let us see how Prabhupada defines Bhakti. Okay. Yes, here. This is now paragraph 6 of your summary study book, paragraph 6. Yes, this is paragraph 6. Bhakti means devotional service. That's it. This is how Prabhupada defines Bhakti. Bhakti means devotional service. Now, here in the slides, I have elaborated a little more on the meaning of the term bhakti. Srila Prabhupada says bhakti means devotional service. Prabhupada doesn't translate bhakti as devotion. He says devotional service. Very precise. And first time you will encounter this in the Bhagavad Gita in 6.47 purport. Bhaj dhatu it is there. Because there Lord Krishna introduces bhakti in that 6.47, and very elaborate commentary Prabhupada has given about bhakti there, meaning devotional service. So this is how Prabhupada defines devotional service. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned, mitam cha saram cha vacho hi vagmita iti. Essential truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. So you can see the eloquence of Prabhupada in defining bhakti. Just in 2 words, he has entirely and clearly and perfectly defined the definition of bhakti. Bhakti connotes devotion or love. That is why sometimes many translate them as devotion. But Srila Prabhupada said devotional service. And love implies service, activity to please the beloved. Thus, devotional service is an eloquent definition of bhakti. Suppose in the mother and the child relationship, the mother says that I love my child. Just saying that I love my child or the mother has devotion for the child, that is not sufficient. That should be exhibited in how the mother serves the child. So the service what she performs in relationship with the child in Vatsalya Ras, that service denotes what? That there is bhakti, devotion for the child. So that is why bhakti connotes devotion or love, and love implies service. Love implies service. Suppose the child cries night 2 o'clock and the mother says, let him cry. I still love the child. No. If she has really love for the child, she will get up and she will go and take care of the child. So there is service. And that's why Prabhupada is defining as devotional service. Now let us go into the Garuda Puran to see what is the definition given of bhakti. The word bhakti indicates service. The Smriti Shastras say, the Garuda Puran is a Smriti Shastra. So this definition is from Srila Baldi Vidyabhushan, and Srila Prabhupada actually doesn't give this verse, but this is what he gives his explanation in 6.47 of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhaja iti esha vai dhatu sevayam parikirtita tasmat seva buddhay prokta bhakti shabdena bhuyasi. Very, very interesting definition of bhakti. Bhaja iti esha vai dhatu. Since the root bhaja, bhakti comes from the root word bhaj. You know, in Sanskrit there is dhatu or root words. So bhaja iti esha vai dhatu. Sevayam parikirtita indicates service. Bhakti means service. Therefore the intelligent say, tasmat seva buddhay prokta. That bhakti, the word bhakti indicates service. Seva bhakti shabdena bhuyasi. So bhakti shabda means seva, devotional service. And that is why you see bhakti, Prabhupada has defined bhakti as devotional service. I think he is one of the first acharyas who has given a very unique definition of bhakti, which is not found in any other commentaries. One thing is that all other commentators who don't come in the Guru Shishya Parampara, They defined it as just devotion or something else. But Prabhupada has given such a precise and eloquent definition as bhakti, meaning not devotion, devotional service. So this is the shloka from the Smriti Shastras, which says that the root indicates seva, and that's why the intelligent say seva. Seva is actually, bhakti means service. So if the mother doesn't serve the child, it shows that the mother doesn't have love for the child. Simple. So this is about bhakti. Now let us go to ras. Every service has some attractive feature which drives the servitor progressively on and on. Every one of us within this world is perpetually engaged in some sort of service. And the impetus for such service is the pleasure we derive from it. Now, this is what Prabhupada, in a very general sense, is giving us some understanding of what is really rasa. Rasa is a very deep science, which Rupa Goswami has explained in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But for his audience, Srila Prabhupada in the Nectar of Devotion is giving a definition by which we can relate to. It is some attractive feature which drives the servitor progressively on and on. Everyone is engaged in some sort of service, and the impetus for such service is what? The pleasure we derive. That is how Prabhupada is giving the definition. Now he gives, I think, 3 examples. Driven by affection for wife and children, a family man works day and night. So why does a family man take so much trouble, working very hard day and night? Because at the end of the day, when he comes in the evening, he's very tired from the whole day work. But when he sees his children and they call out Papa and they come running, and hug him, all his tiredness is gone. Or if the mother is feeding the children, and the children are happily taking the food, and the father comes and sees, although he is tired, exhausted, and is completely, hungry, but seeing his children nicely being fed, he derives some higher pleasure, although he's going through some trouble. So there is affection for the wife, there is affection for the children. And driven by this affection, a man works day and night. So something is driving this man to work day and night. That is the affection. There is some rasa affection. There is some madhurya ras affection with the wife, and there is vatsalya ras affection with the children. Driven by this affection, a man is working day and night. This is the first example. The second example, Prabhupada says, a philanthropist works in the same way for love for a greater family. Now, what is the meaning of philanthropy? Anyone would like to say? Philanthropy. Anyone can raise their hands. What is the meaning of philanthropy? I want a dictionary meaning of philanthropy. You'll have to break the word philanthropy and give you the the hand was raised and it went down. I want a dictionary meaning of the word philanthropy, and I will break the word for you. Philanthropy can be broken into 2, phil and anthropy. So now you tell me what is the meaning of philanthropy. Mohanlal Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. I think philanthropy means a desire to help somebody.
Yes, that is true. But I want, as I mentioned, I want a breakup of the word of philanthropy and what it means. Okay, let us wait from the, yes, Ratna Mataji. I have unmuted you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Philic means loving, and anthropy is the study is man. So a person who loves man.
Yes, Phil means
Anthropology is study of man.
man. Yes, so philanthropy, when you break it, Phil means love, anthropy means man. So love for mankind, philanthropy. So that is philanthropy. Now let us go to philosophy. What is the meaning of philosophy then? Raise your hands. Philosophy. Anyone knows philosophy? Again, you all have to break up and tell me the meaning. Philosophy. Anyone knows philosophy? Okay. Yes, Ratna Mataji.
Again, Phil is for loving, and also Phi is belief or truth, or it can mean a theory, a kind of principle.
A little different it is. Yes, there is one devotee here who is attending the class. Yes, Prabhuji.
It's Phil and Sophia. Phil is again love and Sophia is knowledge.
Yes. So he has answered rightly here. Phil means again love. Sophia, Sophie, philosophy is there, na? Sophia, if you go to the root meanings, that is the Latin and Greek, it refers to wisdom, love for wisdom. And if you connect to the Vedic tradition, it is Saraswati. Sophia is Saraswati, Vidya Devi. So one who has love for wisdom, like the Bhagavad Gita. So that is philosophy. Love for philosophy. So the philanthropist has love for humanity. He loves the greater family. A family man loves only his family. His love is expanded only to his wife and children. Whereas a philanthropist has love for an entire humanity. So there is love for that, and driven by that love, he is serving mankind through philanthropic work. So there is some kind of rasa he is relishing in that philanthropic work. Now, and a nationalist for the cause of his country and countrymen. Now, nationalist has love for what? Raise your hand. Nationalist has love for what now? Anyone can raise your hand and answer? Yes, there is our devotees here, but I would like to see in the audience. It's quite a simple answer. Yes, Mohan Ruksha Prabhuji.
Love for the nation.
Yes, it's very simple. Love for the nation. So the nationalist has love for the nation, and driven for the love for the nation, he sacrifices his life for the nation. There is some rasa. So this is how Prabhupada is giving a very simple definition with these three examples. And we will go into the science of rasa very soon. Hold on. Now Prabhupada, after giving these examples, he explains that force which drives the philanthropist, the householder, the nationalist is called rasa, a kind of mellow relationship whose taste is very sweet. Whose taste is very sweet. So driven by the affection for the family, a man works day and night. Driven for the affection for humanity, a philanthropist works day and night. Driven for the affection for a nation, a nationalist works day and night because he is deriving some higher rasa in that. And this rasa is very, very sweet. Now, Prabhupada, in the remaining of the paragraph, distinguishes difference between mundane rasa and bhakti ras, because the topic of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is bhakti ras. So mundane rasa is material rasa, and then bhakti rasa is spiritual rasa. So that is what he is going to do in the remaining of the paragraph. Now, before that, let me see in the organization of my slides whether I have further. Yeah, this I have discussed now. Okay, no, I have not discussed the science of rasa here. Let me see whether I have actually presented those slides, because it is important to understand the science of rasa. Yes, it is there. Okay, it is there. Okay. Okay, let us first then finish the discussion of the remaining of the paragraph and then go to the description of the spiritual rasa. Okay, fine. So we saw this definition of rasa, how Prabhupada is giving. Let us now see the difference between bhakti rasa and mundane rasa. Bhakti rasa is a mellow different from the ordinary rasa enjoyed by mundane workers. Mundane workers labor very hard day and night in order to relish a certain kind of rasa, which is understood as sense gratification. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining that this rasa, this mundane rasa, is actually sense gratification. Now, there can be different mundane rasas. One mundane rasa is gross rasa. That is, you derive pleasure in eating food. Food is material. And you get a kind of taste and happiness by eating food. Whole world is driven by food now. It's a food world now. So there is some rasa you relish. That's why people are driven to enjoy this rasa. That is what Prabhupada is explaining. It is actually sense gratification. Now, one of my friends who is studying in a medical college told me that he's practicing spiritual life. So he told me that some of his friends in the medical college itself, there is a McDonald's. And they had gone to have the, burger or whatever, McDonald's. It was late by 9:30, 10, and the McDonald's had closed. Now, in order to have McDonald's from Belgaum, where I stay, they drove by car to Kolhapur, which is almost 100 kilometers. So they reached somewhere night 11 o'clock to McDonald's Kolhapur, and it was closed. Now, driven by the rasa to taste the McDonald's pizza or burger or whatever it is, they drove from Kolhapur to Pune, which is 175 kilometers, and reached night 3 o'clock Pune. And if you are all aware, in Pune, the restaurants, especially these kind of restaurants, are open 24 hours. Even in my college days, 20 years back, they were open. And after having the McDonald's pizza or burger, from Pune, they drove back to Belgaum, which is another 6 hours. Just driven by the rasa to taste this mundane ras, which is sense gratification, how each person is driven. So this tongue is so voracious that it will drive you all over the world just for sense gratification. So this is one kind of rasa, which is a gross rasa, mundane rasa. The rasa or relish, the relish or taste of mundane rasa does not long endure. The taste of pizza, the taste of drinking juice, it's there during that time moment, and then after that it's gone. And therefore, mundane workers are apt to change their position of enjoyment. The businessman is not satisfied by working the whole week. Therefore, wanting a change for the week end, he goes to a place where he tries to forget his business activities. Then, after the weekend is spent in forgetfulness, he again changes his position and resumes his actual business activities. Material engagement means accepting a particular status for some time and then changing it. This position of changing back and forth is technically called as bhog tyag, which means a position of alternating sense enjoyment and renunciation. Now here in this part of the paragraph, Prabhupada is explaining how this mundane rasa does not endure for long, and that's why you have to flip-flop. You have to keep on changing positions. And he's giving an example of a businessman. How, driven by the rasa to enjoy from the earning, he works very hard. And then, when the weekend comes, he enjoys. And enjoying, sometimes he might become diseased. And then he has to go and take treatment. Then he renounces some kind of food which he likes to enjoy. And then when his health is back, again he goes for enjoyment, which is called as bhog tyag. Bhog tyag. So this is like a pendulum. We have seen those clocks which used to have a pendulum from one end to the other end. We are always going like this. A living entity cannot steadily remain in either sense enjoyment or in renunciation. Change is going on perpetually, either in enjoyment or renunciation. We cannot be happy in either state, neither in enjoyment nor in renunciation, because of our eternal constitutional position. So this is a very remarkable point what Srila Prabhupada is making. Why we cannot be situated in either bhog or tyag? Because that is not our constitution. We are not the enjoyers. Krishna is the enjoyer. Our constitution is to be enjoyed by Krishna. So we cannot be fixed in our constitution as enjoyers because that is not our constitution. Neither is renunciation. Why we cannot be fixed in renunciation? We cannot be fixed in renunciation because that is also not our constitutional position. What you are going to renounce? When nothing belongs to you, this body doesn't belong to you, this world doesn't belong to you. One who has created this world, he has created for his enjoyment. It belongs to him. He is the proprietor. So if he wants, he can renounce. That which doesn't belong to us, how can we renounce? So that is also not our constitutional position. Our constitutional position is Jivera Sarupaya Krishnera Nityadas. So only in that position we can be situated steadily. Sense gratification does not endure for long, and it is therefore called Chapala Sukh, flickering happiness. Narottam Das Thakur has sung Chapala Sukha Laba Lagire in his bhajan. Chapala means flickering happiness. And the examples the acharyas give is if you try to catch a fish, the fish is very slippery. The moment you try to catch it, it goes out of your hand. So similarly, material pleasure is like that. You feel that, I will have it and enjoy it, and in some moment it is gone. You really cannot catch it, just like you're trying to catch the mirage in the desert. Because that is not our position of an enjoyer. So that is why it is called as Chapala Sukh. Now Prabhupada gives an example. For example, an ordinary family man who works very hard day and night and is successful in giving comforts to the members of his family, thereby relishes a kind of mellow. I explained this, how a family man relishes giving pleasure to his family people by working very hard. But this whole advancement of material happiness immediately terminates along with his body as soon as his life is over. So although this Chapala Sukh is there, what happens? It is terminated with death. Death, therefore, is taken as a representative of God for the atheistic class of man. Mrityu sarva haraschaham. A devotee realizes the presence of God by devotional service, whereas the atheist realizes the presence of God in the shape of death. So, if we don't realize Krishna by devotional service, we will realize him in his very Ugra form, the Kala Rupa, in the form of death. We will see Krishna, no doubt, but in his ghastly form, like the Yamudutas. So, if we don't realize Krishna by devotional service, then we will realize him in his different form, ghastly form. At that, everything is finished, and one has to begin a new chapter of life in a new situation, perhaps higher or lower than the last one. In any field of activity, political, social, national, international, the results of our actions will be finished with the end of life. That is sure. So here, most important to understand is that this mundane rasa is temporary. It is temporary. The objects of the rasa are also temporary. Like the husband has relationship with the children. The husband will die, and one day the children also are going to die. So the object of rasa is what? Temporary. It is material. And that is why it doesn't last long. It terminates with death. Now, after explaining the mundane rasa's negative points, Prabhupada comes to the Bhakti Ras. Bhakti Ras, however, the mellow relish in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, does not finish with the end of life. It continues perpetually, and therefore is called Amrit, that which does not die but exists eternally. This is confirmed in all Vedic literatures. Bhagavad Gita says that a little advancement in Bhakti Ras can save a devotee from the greatest danger, that is missing the opportunity for human life. So Prabhupada is quoting here from the Bhagavad Gita, Neha Bhikramanashosti Pratyavayona Vidyate Salpamapyasya Dharmasya Trayato Mahato Bhayat. So this is the verse he's quoting, 2.40. In this process, Iha Abhikrama, there is no loss by stopping without completion. Na Nasha Asti, and no sin incurred by imperfection of performance. Pratyavayo na vidyate. One is protected from birth and death. Trayate mahato bhayat. Even by practicing a little of this process. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya. Now, to give you a very simple example, suppose a millionaire earns a lot of money and he deposits in his bank lot of money, and he wants to enjoy the money, but he has gone on a business trip and he dies. Now what happens to his bank accounts? Suppose by God's grace, he is born again as a human being in some family, and he remembers his previous life, that he's a millionaire, and he goes to the bank. He says, I was a person who deposited the money. I can do the same signature. Will the bank give him the money? No. With death, it is finished. So all mundane activities or mundane rasa finished with death. But bhakti is the activity of the soul in relationship with the Supreme Soul. The soul is eternal, the Supreme Soul is eternal, Krishna. So all these activities are spiritual and they are Amrit. And that is why if you have performed bhakti in this life, say 20%, in the next life you will begin from 21%. So that is, the point which Srila Prabhupada is trying to mention here. The rasas derived from our feelings in social life, in family life, or in a greater family life of altruism, philanthropy, nationalism, socialism, communism, etc., do not guarantee that one's next life will be as a human being. So here is again another point which Prabhupada is mentioning, that Bhakti Ras guarantees us next life as a human being, whereas mundane rasas, now these rasas are not gross, mundane rasas, they are little subtle, they are feelings. These are bhavanas. This is feeling the husband has for the wife, and the husband has for the children, the vatsalya feelings, the emotions. These are feelings. The nationalist who has feelings for the nation, Mera Desh Mahan, Desh Swatantrata ke liye hum jaan bhi de denge, something like that they say. So these are feelings. So all these feelings are at a subtle level. They are at the level of the mind. So within the mundane rasa, there are two types of rasas. One is gross, another is subtle. Gross is, when you taste food, that is matter. And subtle is in the form of relationships, which are the feelings in the heart. So even these feelings, what we have for society, nation, country, humanity, all these do not guarantee a human form of life. We prepare our next life by our actual activities in the present life. A living entity is offered a particular type of body as a result of his actions in the present body. These activities are taken into account by a superior authority known as Daiva, or the authority of God. Thus, this Daiva is explained in the Bhagavad Gita as the prime cause of everything. So this is there in the Bhagavad Gita 8.14. You can mark in your books how Daiva is supreme is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada is saying, and that is the reference is 8.14 in the Bhagavad Gita. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the man takes his next body by Daiva Netrena, which means by the supervision of the authority of the Supreme. In an ordinary sense, Daiva is explained as destiny. Daiva supervision gives us a body selected from 84 lakh forms. The choice does not depend on our selection, but it is awarded to us according to our destiny, according to our karma. Based on what kind of activities you have done, you will, according to our desires, you will get a body. So here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when Prabhupada is referring, he is referring to the Srimad Bhagavatam verse, which is spoken by Kapila Muni. This is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 31st chapter, 1st verse only. Karmana daiva netrena jantur deho apavatyate striya pravishta udaram pumso reta kanashaya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and according to the result of his work, Karmana Daiva Netrena. So Karmana Daiva Netrena means supervision of the Supreme Lord, and it specifically refers to actually the Devatas. So the whole body is controlled by the Devatas. The eyes are controlled by the sense Devatas, that is sun. The mind is controlled by the moon Devata, moon. The Dig Devatas are there who control the directions. Entire body, in fact, is controlled by the Devatas. Each limb of the body is represented by a particular Devata, and all your activities are observed. And based on the karma, karmana daiva netrena, the living entity, the soul, jantu means the living entity, deha papattate, he attains a body, is made to enter into the womb of a woman, striya pravishta udaram, through the particle of the male semen to assume a particular type of body. Pumsa reta kanashaya. Reta refers to the semen, and kana means that spiritual particle. That Atma enters into that particular body. So this is how there is a saying that we get dress according to our desires. We get a dress according to our desires. Just like today in big shopping malls, you go, If you want to buy dresses, there are big shopping malls. All company, dresses are there. And you have a desire to buy a particular dress, but it will depend on what? How much money you have in your pocket. Based on the money you have, you can buy a particular type of dress. Similarly, based on your karma, material nature will give you a dress. And material nature shopping complex is very big. 84 lakh varieties of dresses are there. And based on your karma, the devas decide and give you a body. So that is the point Srila Prabhupada is making here. Now, after explaining this, that how those who are engaged in mundane rasa, they will get a particular body based on daiva. Then Prabhupada comes back to how if we engage our body in bhakti ras, then we can get an eternal life. If our body at the present is engaged in activities of Krishna consciousness, then it is guaranteed that we will have at least a human body in our next life. A human being engaged in Krishna consciousness, even if he is unable to complete the course of Bhakti Yoga. We are doing Bhakti Shastra course, but Prabhupada is speaking about Bhakti Yoga course here. Takes birth in the higher divisions of the human society so that he can automatically further his advancement in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, all bona fide activities in Krishna consciousness are Amrit permanent. This is the subject matter of the nectar of devotion. So the nectar of devotion deals with the bhakti ras, which is Amrit, which is eternal. Now, the next last paragraph. This eternal engagement in bhakti ras can be understood by a serious student upon studying the nectar of devotion. So here Prabhupada is mentioning a serious student. If you want to understand the eternal engagement in bhakti rasa, you should be serious. Adoption of bhakti rasa or Krishna consciousness will immediately bring one to an auspicious life free from anxieties and will bless one with transcendental existence, thus minimizing the value of liberation. So the bhakti will bring an auspicious life. Prabhupada is speaking about Shubhada actually. Shubhada means bhakti brings auspicious qualities and auspicious life. And one will be situated on the transcendental existence. That means one will attain his spiritual platform, Sarup Siddhi. And minimizing the value of liberation means one will think liberation to be completely tuchya, insignificant. So Prabhupada is speaking about moksha laguta krut, which are the characteristics of bhakti. Bhakti ras itself is sufficient to produce a feeling of liberation because it attracts the attention of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Generally, neophyte devotees are anxious to see Krishna or God, but God cannot be seen or known by our present material blunt senses. The process of devotional service recommended as it is recommended in the nectar of devotion will gradually elevate one from the material condition of life to the spiritual status, wherein the devotee becomes purified of all designations. The senses can then become uncontaminated, being constantly in touch with the bhakti rasa. When the purified senses are employed in the service of the Lord, one becomes situated in bhakti ras life, and any action performed for the satisfaction of Krishna in this transcendental bhakti ras stage of life can be relished perpetually. So if you very carefully read the statement of Prabhupada, Prabhupada is explaining about Shuddha Bhakti. Prabhupada is speaking about Narada Pancharatra definition by Narad Muni. Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. Rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. So Prabhupada is saying purified of all designations. That means Sarvapadi vinirmuktam. So we right now are still in the bodily identification, although we are practicing sadhana bhakti, we are still not identified ourselves as Aham Brahmasmi. I am spirit, soul, part and parcel. That realization is not there. We have a theoretical understanding. And we are now engaged in sadhana bhakti where the senses are not fully purified. So Prabhupada is saying when the senses are uncontaminated, that means the senses are fully pure. So the senses get fully spiritualized at the stage of bhava. And when you do actions at the stage of bhava in relationship to Krishna, you relish bhakti ras. So the real bhakti ras actually begins at the stage of bhava. Rasa is relishing of relationship mellow with the Supreme Lord, the individual soul and the Supreme Soul. So that happens at the stage of bhava. And we can that time relish actually the real bhakti ras. But we as sadhakas can see that even in our sadhana bhakti, we are relishing the activities of devotional service. We are relishing the festivals, the kirtan, the prasad, the chanting. We are deriving a certain kind of spiritual pleasure which is not of this material world. Otherwise, none of you would be continuing in spiritual life. We have distinctly relished something unique in this practice of Krishna consciousness, apart from the mundane rasa what we have relished in this world. And that is driving us in spiritual life. But the real rasa manifests at the stage of bhava. That's why Prabhupada is mentioning here transcendental bhakti ras. And he's saying being situated in bhakti ras life. When one is thus engaged in devotional service, all varieties of rasa or mellows turn into eternity. In the beginning, one is trained according to the principles of regulation under the guidance of the Acharya or spiritual master. And gradually, when one is elevated, devotional service becomes automatic and spontaneous, eagerness to serve Krishna. So Prabhupada is, after mentioning that highest stage of Bhava Bhakti, he comes down to the definition of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, regulated devotional service. And after saying Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, then he says automatic and spontaneous refers to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. There are 12 kinds of rasas, as will be explained in this book. And by renovating our relationship with Krishna in 5 primary rasas, we can live eternally in full knowledge and bliss. So Prabhupada has briefly given the science of rasa now here, but now I will start discussing the science of rasa. Now, up till now, if anyone has any questions, can raise their hands. Okay. Yes, let me take this question. Yes, Ratna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. The last sentence, Prabhu, there's a 12 rasas are there, and 5 rasas only was mentioned, Prabhu. Why is that?
Okay, fine. So in the last paragraph, there is only, there are 12 rasas, but only 5 rasas are mentioned. What is the reason for that? Actually, there are only 5 rasas, primary rasas, which is eternal in relationship with Krishna or even in Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha, there are only 2.5 rasas, that is different. But these other 7 rasas, they further embellish the primary rasas. They are not there constantly. Like Krishna's friends are in Sakya-ras with Krishna, and they are relishing the mellow of friendship. They are Krishna's friends and they have friendship. They play with Krishna. They have very deep friendship. At the same time, the Gauna rasas, they come into play with the Mukhya rasas and further embellish the Mukhya rasas, like the Hasya ras. Krishna's friend, who is, the personified of Hasiras is, who is he? He is Madhumangal, Batu Dvijaraj, the Brahmana boy Madhumangal. So Madhumangal, pranks and does jokes with Krishna and makes Krishna laugh, and they relish Hasiras. And their friendship, what happens? It further deepens. So primarily there are 5 rasas. The 7 Gaun rasas embellish the Mukhya rasas. So that's how Prabhupada is explaining it. Is it okay, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Any other questions anyone has? Now I'll be going into now the southern division to prepare you. Maybe after a few years, after studying this, you will be very much eager to know the southern division and study the southern division. So the southern division is very important, and we are all experiencing this. We are experiencing it, but we cannot analyze it and understand it. But now when we study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, then we can relate to it very easily. So we all have experience of this whole science of rasa. But now from the lens of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Rupa Goswami, let us study the science of rasa, how he explains it. Now, let us go to this. Now, this is based on what Prabhupada has spoken about rasa. He spoke about mundane rasa and Bhakti rasa. We saw it is chapala, it is ends with death, does not guarantee a human birth. Whereas Bhakti rasa is relished perpetually, continues after death, guarantees a human birth. So these are the points from the discussion what we had. Now I'm going to the science of rasa. Now this is from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's work. I'm elaborating it. In the Nectar of Devotion, that the word rasa is understood by different persons differently. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying in the Nectar of Devotion, the rasa is understood by different persons differently. The English dictionary includes as meaning sap, syrup, juice, and sentiment expressed or flavor contained in a writing. Now you see what is rasa. Everyone has experience. Which is the best juice everyone likes? Can you tell? Which is the best juice? Which is liked by everyone? Which is the best juice? Yes, mango. Yes, mango is the king of the fruits. So when especially there is festivals in our temples, and suppose there is mango juice, and you are given 1 glass of mango juice, and moment you have this mango juice, you experience some wonderful emotions in your heart, and you are driven. You go to the devotee, Prabhuji, one more. You are relishing some rasa in that mango juice. Okay. Now this is one explanation. There is rasa in sentiments also. Now these sentiments are, with the husband and the wife, the lover and the beloved, 2 friends, and there is a servant and the master. And there is sentiments or flavor in writings also, like Shakespeare's work, Romeo and Juliet. They say, the more you read it, you will get deeper, multiple levels of understanding of, Shakespeare's work. So by reading even a mundane literature, they can derive some rasa out of it. So that is mundane rasa. That is the definition of rasa Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioning. Sentiment expressed or flavor contained in a writing. But scholars don't call the rasa of a tree rasa, that is mango tree or a sap tree, because they explain a mental rasa which is superior to the rasa of an ordinary tree. So scholars say there is a higher rasa compared to the mundane rasa. There is something called as a mental rasa. In the same way, spiritualists also don't call the rasa of the material body and the mind rasa. But the rasa which is naturally inherent in the soul is called rasa. So the rasa of the soul in relation to the Supreme Soul is actually what spiritualists call as rasa. The rasa which is in relationship with the body, the husband-wife relationship, the husband and children relationship, that is in relationship with the body and the mind. That is a mental rasa. But real rasa is what? The rasa of the soul. Now let us go into the examples of these three types of rasas. One is material rasa, second is mundane rasa, third is spiritual rasa. We sometimes refer to rasa of date or sugarcane juice. Now date juice, everyone likes khajur ka juice. I don't know, you are all in Saudi there, in UAE. So khajur juice is very famous. Even in Mayapur, many who have gone to festivals, there are these date trees, and early morning, you can have this date syrup. It's very nectarian beverage. So there is rasa. Or the byproducts like good, sugar, and rock candy. There is the madhur ras in it. And we sometimes refer to a rasa as the relationship between the hero and the heroine. So this is, we all know, between the lover and the beloved. But actually we know that real rasa is the relationship between our souls and the soul of all souls. That is Sri Krishna. This is material rasa, this is mental rasa, and this is spiritual rasa. Let's go further. Now we have been speaking so much about rasa, rasa, rasa. What is this rasa? The difference in bhava and rasa is that many bhavas unitedly give rise to rasa. Now what is rasa? Rasa is many bhavas give rise to rasa. Then you'll ask me the question, what is bhava? Rasata is attained when all bhavas combine together. When many bhavas, rasa is attained when many bhavas combine together. Amongst all bhavas, the bhava which is prominent is called as sthahi bhav. Now we are defining what are bhavas. It is mentioned that many bhavas combine together and give rise to rasa. Now what are bhavas? There are many bhavas because many bhavas combine and give rise to rasa. So among those many bhavas, there is one bhava which is prominent. That bhava which is prominent is called as what? Sthayi bhava. Now we will go a little slowly and step by step to try to understand. So sthahi bhav. Now what is the sthahi bhav in a relationship between the mother and the child? Raise your hand and answer. What is the relationship? What is the sthahi bhav in the relationship between the mother and child? Harinam Sankirtan Prabhu has first raised his hand. So we'll give him the first chance. Yes.
Yes, the affection the mother has got towards her child, that is
Yes.
eternal and
Yeah, but what is the name of that affection?
motherly love,
Yeah, what is the name?
motherhood. I mean,
Yeah, in Sanskrit, what it is called?
I don't know.
Vatsalya.
Valsalya.
Yes, 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 Vatsalya.
Valsalya. True.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the mother has a permanent emotion towards the child. This permanent emotion in the relationship is called as sthahi bhav. Is called as sthahi bhav. Now this doesn't change. Although this vatsalya affection is very prominent when the child is very young in the lap of the mother, when he's growing with the mother, it is fully manifested in the motherly affection. And although the son grows old and the mother is very, very old, still the vatsalya affection remains. And although they might be fighting with each other, still the vatsalya affection remains. So that is what is called as the Stahi Bhav. That is Stahi Bhav. Okay. Amongst the other three bhavas, one is named Vibhava, one is named Anubhava, and one is named Sanchari Bhav. Now, please hear very, very attentively. We had mentioned many bhavas combined to give rise to rasa. So there are many bhavas, and we have identified one bhava which is prominent, and it is defined as Sthayi Bhav. There are other bhavas, and they are termed as Vibhava, Anubhava, and Sanchari Bhav. So now we will ask what? What is Vibhava, what is Anubhava, and what is Sanchari Bhav? Yes? Let us go to that. Bhava, with the support of all these three, becomes relishable and is transformed into rasa. So bhava, that is actually the Sthayi Bhava, with support of all these three, that is Vibhava, Anubhava, and Sanchari Bhav, give rise to rasa. Now, before going into the definitions of Vibhava, Anubhava, and Sanchari Bhav, let us take an example to understand this. Difference between rasa and bhava. Now here, there is a halwa preparation. Now halwa is made of rava, ghee, sugar, dry fruits, milk. In general, I'm saying. So we have taken this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients. All together, when they are mixed and they are cooked properly, then we get what is halwa, hot pineapple halwa. Everyone likes pineapple halwa here. So when we have the pineapple halwa, it is very relishable. We are tasting the halwa rasa. And we would like to have it. And especially when it's served hot, it is still more tasty, the halwa rasa. So all these components, in fact, in Sanskrit, bhava also means materials, ingredients, the nature of material elements. So rava is one ingredient, ghee is one ingredient, sugar is one ingredient, dry fruits is one ingredient, milk is another ingredient, and all these combined together give rise to, after cooked, rasa in the form of halwa, which we relish. So these all are called as bhavas, and this is called as rasa. When all rasas combine together, they give rise to, when all these ingredients, which are called as bhavas, combine together, they give rise to rasa. The difference between bhava and rasa is that many bhavas means all these, unitedly give rise to rasa. They all unite and give rise to rasa. Now, till now we have seen the definition of what? Sthayi Bhav. Now, among these ingredients, now we still don't know what is Vibhava, Anubhava, Sanchari Bhav, but at least we know what is Sthayi Bhav. Among these ingredients, please raise your hand and tell me which must be the Sthayi Bhav, which ingredient is the Sthayi Bhav among all these ingredients. Raise your hand and tell me. Okay. This time we'll give it to Nitya Sevini Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Yes.
Sugar.
Yes, it is sugar. Even if you have rava, ghee, dry fruits, milk, and you make the halwa and there is no sugar, you cannot relish rasa. So, as long as the Sthayi Bhav is not there, the other components combine only with the Sthayi Bhav and give rise to rasa. Sthayi Bhav has to be there. Without the Sthayi Bhav, all other ingredients cannot combine and give rise to rasa. And in this example, without sugar, they cannot be a halwa. So at least this we could understand. Now let us come to our understanding of rasa and bhavas. So we saw that many bhavas combine and give rise to rasa. And we have now some understanding of what is Sthayi Bhav. Now we have to understand Vibhava, Anubhava, Sanchari Bhav. There is another bhav which is called as the Satviki Bhav. And many devotees, I presume, have some understanding of Satviki Bhav, the Ashta Satvika Vikars. They are called as Satviki Bhavs, the Ashta Satviki Vikars. I will come to that. Now, we have some understanding of Sthayi Bhav. Let us go to the definition of Vibhav. Now, firstly, you have to understand Sthayi Bhav has to be there, the permanent emotion. Now, Vibhav is what stimulates the Sthayi Bhav. What is Vibhav? Vibhav is what stimulates the Sthayi Bhav. The mother has Vatsalya Prem towards the child. Now the child in the morning, the mother wakes him up, bathes him, dresses him. All this service, what the mother is doing to the child is out of love and devotion for the child. Feeds him, puts his bag and sends him to the school. Now, mother is engaged in household activities. She is engaged in household activities, but she has a Sthayi Bhav towards the child. And suddenly, when she is in the room, she sees the picture of the child, the cute face of the child's picture in the photo frame. What will that photo frame do? The photo frame of the child will stimulate the parental affection or the Vatsalya affection for the mother. The mother will immediately remember the child and Vatsalya feelings will, suddenly manifest. So what is Vibhav? What stimulates the Sthayi Bhav? That is Vibhav. I am giving you very simple definitions. It's a very deep science when we study the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Now this is Vibhav. Now, Vibhav means what? Now, for any reciprocation of love, there has to be two objects. Yes, there has to be two. That's why, Radha Krishna too, in order to relish rasa. The one absolute truth has become two in order to relish rasa, Radha and Krishna. So there has to be love, or reciprocation means there has to be two. So Alamban is that support. Alamban means support. Or on this, just like we can see, I have shown you here a two-legged stand. It is standing on two things. Two legs, minimum two are required for it to stand. So that is Alamban. Alamban is support. Just like for reciprocation, there has to be two. And in Alamban, there is Vishaya Alamban and Ashaya Alamban. Vishaya is the object of love and Ashaya is the abode of love. Father, mother, the Vishaya is the child. He is the Vishaya. And Ashray is her heart, where she has love for the child. So she is the Ashray and the child is the Vishay. Now in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Vishay is Krishna and the Ashray is what? The devotee who possesses Bhakti. And it can be any of the rasas. The Vishay is Krishna and Ashray is the devotee. For Mother Yashoda, the beautiful child Krishna, Muhushchumbitam Bimba Rakta Dharambe, as it is said in the Damodar Ashtakam. He has that lovely curly hairs and his lips are like the Bimba fruit. And Mother Yashoda is kissing his cheeks. So Krishna is the Vishay for Mother Yashoda. And Mother Yashoda in her heart, she has love for Krishna. So that is Ashray. So Vibhav is that which stimulates the Sthayi Bhav, and there has to be support in the form of Vishaya and Ashray. Now within Vibhav, there is something called as Uddipan. Now what is this Uddipan? Uddipan are anything related with the Vishaya which stimulate the Sthayi Bhav. It's directly not the Vishay related to the Vishay. It is related to the Vishay. These are called as Uddipans. Now let me give you some Uddipan examples. Uddipans in different rasas. For the Sakya ras, the bugle, the horn, the stick, when Krishna in the morning, actually it is said Krishna when he gets up in the morning, gets ready, his friends are already eager there. They are thinking, when are we going to go to the forest? When are we going to the forest? And they are all waiting to play with Krishna. And Krishna blows his bugle. And the moment he blows his bugle, all the friends of Krishna come running to Krishna's house. Krishna, let's go. So the bugle sound is a stimulus for now relishing which rasa? Sakyaras. So these are called as Uddipans. The Vatsalya ras, Krishna's ornaments. Krishna is wearing what? Makara Kundal. In the Damodara Ashtam, in the first prayer, it is said, Namamishwaram Sachedananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashoda Bhiyo Lokaladavamanam Param Drushtramatyanto Dodrigopya. Lasat Kundalam. Lasat Kundalam means the kundal are, in the form of sharks. These are like shark fish and they are shining. And they are constantly, because Krishna is running, these kundalas are always touching the cheeks of Krishna. And for Mother Yashoda, the object of affection is to, kiss Krishna on the cheeks and see the good fortune of the kundalas. They are getting the same benefit what Mother Yashoda gets. So when, somebody sees only the kundala, they immediately stimulate the Stahi Bhav. They stimulate the Stahi Bhav. So the kundala, the curly hair, the ankle bells. Now for the Madhurya Ras, we all know it is the flute. When the gopis hear the flute or the full moon night. So like that, there are many such Uddipans, and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu very elaborately describes these Uddipans quite in detail. It's a very vast science, in fact. So these are Uddipans. Now we will hold on for a few minutes here just to know whether we have understood Vibhav. Within Vibhav, we have understood Alamban, Vishaya Alamban, Ashaya Alamban, and whether we have understood Uddipan. Anyone has any questions? Okay, there is one devotee here. Yes, Prabhuji. Ask him.
So this Vishaya and Ashray, is it relative or it is fixed between Krishna and
Okay, so the question is, this Vishaya and Ashray within the Alamban, is it relative or is it fixed? Now, in the absolute platform, in relationship with the absolute truth, Krishna, it is fixed. And in the material world, the relationships which we have, mother and child, husband and wife, the Vishaya, because they are temporary, they are relative. There is Vishaya and Ashray also in this world, but because the objects are temporary, they are relative. But in relationship with the absolute truth, the relations are absolute. They are not relative.
Ashray is Vishaya is Krishna and Ashray is the devotee. So that will remain like that, or sometimes devotee becomes Vishaya and Krishna becomes Ashray. Like
Okay, so the question is it that the Vishaya is always Krishna and Ashray is always the devotee? Or it can change, interchange? Very interesting question. Now, it is both ways. It is both ways in relationship, even in this world and in the absolute. Now, for the devotees, Krishna is the Vishay. And the whole Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the whole analysis of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is done based on Krishna as the Vishay. But who is the topmost Ashray, love of abode of Godhead? Srimati Radharani. She is the Ashray. And the Vishay takes the role of the Ashray in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So just like for the devotee, Krishna is a Vishay and his devotion, what he possesses in art is Ashray. For Krishna, the devotee is the Vishay. And Krishna also possesses love for his devotees. Yes? And he acts for the pleasure of his devotees. So for them, the change, it happens, it switches off. So that is how it is very dynamic. The whole science of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is very, very dynamic. Okay. There was another question. Somebody had raised their hand. Anyone else has a question regarding Vibhav in respect to Alamban, Vishay and Ashray and Uddipan? In fact, I am doing the entire overview of Southern Division now with respect to the science of Rasa. Anyone has any other questions?
Prabhuji, can we call Uddipan as stimulants?
Yes, they are spiritual sense objects which agitate. In this material world, we have material sense objects which agitate us. Similarly, in the spiritual realm, on the spiritual platform, Uddipans agitate and excite the Stahi Bhav. They are spiritual sense objects which agitate and produce rasa. Now, to give you one or two examples from the Shastras, we know the famous pastime where Mukund, the physician, went to meet the king because the king was sick. And the king was being fanned by a peacock feather. Now, seeing just a peacock feather, Mukund, who has love for Krishna, immediately he went into ecstasy and fainted and fell down. Yes. So that peacock feather acted as a uddipan for him. And we know in this material world, Maya also, in this form of beautiful things, agitate us and we fall into illusion. So these are spiritual sense objects, uddipans, and there are material sense objects. Because everything in the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So uddipans are in that sense, spiritual sense objects. That is why it is not that, the bhakti ras we can relish when we are at the stage of bhava. We can identify where our heart is attracted to. Some devotees are attracted to Radha Madhav, some are attracted to Radha Shyam Sundar, some are attracted to Radha Gopinath, some are attracted to Radha Ras Bihari. So we should expose our eyes to these spiritual sense objects and spiritualize our eyes. Some are attracted to particular kirtans. So we should hear those and spiritualize our ears. So like that, all these sense objects we should give, and we should not wait till the rasa manifests at the stage of bhava. We can in sadhaka stage only, see everything in the form of rasa. In fact, if you understand the science of rasa, you will start seeing the whole world in a completely different view. Other day, I saw a mother who was gone to pick up a child from the school, a small kid. And this kid was along with the mother, but she was running ahead. Small kid. And I was coming from the other side. I was going to the temple. Moment I came in front, she got scared and she turned and started running back to the mother. So the mother, her affection for the child grew because the child is coming out of fear back in the embrace of the mother. So for the mother, the child is having the Vatsala Ras, and that is the Vibhav, Vishaya, and the mother is Ashray, and they are relishing this Rasa, Out of fear, the child wants to take more shelter of the mother, and the Vatsalya affection is increasing. So the whole science of rasa is like that. So Uddipans are definitely the spiritual sense objects. Another devotee had asked about Uddipans that I have clarified. Any other questions before we go to? I will give you some more examples to make this more clear. So we will. I'm going a little slow because we are going into the science of rasa. That's why. Okay. Now, 3 types of rasas: worldly rasa, heavenly rasa, and spiritual rasa. Worldly rasa is with respect to objects. Heavenly rasa is in terms of relationships, that is husband, wife, children. Spiritual rasa is with the soul and spirit soul. Now, worldly rasa is called as Parthiva rasa. Parthiva means it comes from the word Prithvi, like gulab jamun is made of earth. So there is some rasa there, or sweet rice. When referring to worldly rasa, 4 types of bhavas are observed: Stahi bhav, vibhav, anubhav, sanchari bhav. Now, I've still not explained anubhav and sanchari bhav, but I will explain. Hold on. Let us see an example of Parthiva ras. Let us see how these emotions happen in the mundane rasa or the worldly rasa. A few bhavas appear on seeing the sweet delicacy. Oh, today we have cake in our menu. So some emotions, bhavas, appear in the heart. First, the rati or attachment to sweet rasa is called Stahi bhav. I love cakes. So my permanent emotion is there towards cakes. That is our Stahi bhav. The object of rati is vibhav. Rati is attraction. We have attraction for cake. The Vishay is what now? Cake. Now, if there is a Vishay, there has to be a Ashray. Now, can you just think for a moment? Tell me, if the object Vibhav, that is the cake, what is the Ashray? Where is the Ashray? Think about it a little bit. Ashray. Where is the Ashray residing? The Vishay is there in the cake there. Where is the Ashray within us? Yes, Ratna Mataji has answered correctly. It is the tongue. It is the tongue is the Ashray. This is also material. The cake is also material. Both the rasas are released at the material platform. There are 2 types of objects as Ashray or shelter and Vishay or subject. That which has attachment for the sweet, the human tongue, is the Ashray. That towards which the attachment rushes, the Guda, is the Vishay or the subject. Guda means sweet. Moment we see sweet, we start running towards it, because that is the Vishay and the tongue is pulling us there. Okay. Now, Uddipan. All the qualities of temptation which exist in the Vishay are called Uddipan. Maybe in the cake there are some cherries on top. There is some icing, right? So all these which embellish the, they make us, more excited. We become more agitated by it. They are all what? Uddipan. They are all Uddipan. When attachment is awakened for sweet, then whatever symptoms are manifest are Anubhav. So what is Anubhav is, as the word suggests, after Vibhav is what? Anubhav. What follows Vibhav is Anubhav. What follows Vibhav is Anubhav. Anubhavas are expression of emotions voluntarily. Like you might, wow, today's cake, you might raise your hand. Like for Mother Yashoda, when Krishna comes from the forest, Mother Yashoda has love for Krishna. He is the Vishay. And she will open her arms to embrace Krishna. So the love which is there in the heart is expressed in the form of voluntary actions, in the form of opening up of the arms. So these actions of opening up of the arms is called as anubhav. Anubhav. So your hand goes quickly to the cake, rushing towards the cake. That are what? Anubhavas. In order to nourish that attachment, feelings such as joy is called as sanchari bhav. Now, sanchari bhavs are heightened emotions. They are heightened emotions. Suddenly, sometimes maybe a devotee might start jumping that today there is cake in the feast because he loves cakes. He might start jumping. So other day, a parent had come with a kid, and it was evening 4:30, and the fruit prasadam was being distributed in the temple, and I was speaking to the father, and somebody gave the kid the apple, and I saw the kid was started jumping. I said, "What happened to her?" So the father told me that the kid loves apple. So moment she gets apple and starts eating apple, she starts jumping. So these emotions which heighten the rasa are called as sanchari bhavs. When attachment for sweets becomes palatable by the support of these bhavas, that is sweet rasa. Now this is worldly rasa, how we are experiencing emotions. Now let us see this example now here. Components of worldly rasa or parthiva rasa. Okay. Now, please identify vibhav here. Raise your hands. Identify vibhav here in this picture. Identify vibhav. Okay, 1 minute. I will keep the screen on, and then, yes, there is one hand which is raised. Mohan Rup Sham Prabhu, this time we will give chance. Mohan Rup Sham Prabhu, yes?
Cookies? The cookies are biscuits.
Okay, correct. Okay. Now, identify here, identify within Vibhav, you have identified what? Vishay. Yes. Now identify the ashray here. Yes. Mohan Lal Prabhuji. Identify the ashray.
Prabhuji, tongue.
Tongue. It is the tongue. Okay. Now, can anyone just, it is a speculation, but you should do a good speculation. Identify the uddipans. Identify the uddipans. Yes, Ratna Mataji.
The smell, Prabhu, the smell
Yes.
of the bakery.
Yes. Anything else you can think? All devotees cook. Anything else can use? Many things can be there, but anything more? Okay, more Nitya Sevini Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
The arrangement of cookies on a tray.
Okay, the crispy cookies, the crisp in the cookies can be very, very, very agitating for us. Yes. Yeah. And they're, especially when they are roasted. Yes. Right. So these are uddipans. These can become as uddipans. Now, identify the sanchari bhav. First, anubhav. Sorry, anubhav. Anubhavs. A little difficult, but still, or the sanchari bhavs. Yes, Mohan Lal Prabhuji. Yes, Mohan Lal Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Anubhav will be the, he will say, wow, mouth watering also.
Yes, wonderful. And what is the sanchari bhav?
Sanchari bhav.
He has raised his hands up high in the sky, seeing the cookies. Okay. Yes. Attachment to sweet rasa is tahi bab. Here it is biscuits. Vibhav Alamban, Visha is the sweet biscuits. Vibhav Alamban, Ashra is the tongue. Temptations in the Vishay are called Uddipan, hot, crispy, cream, smell, all these things can be there. Anubhav is a voluntary action from heightened affection for the sweet biscuits, hand raised, or the mouth. Feelings of joy are called Sanchari Bhav, that nourish the attachment. The feelings of joy which come in the heart, wow, today is sweet rice, like that, something like that. So this is regarding the components of worldly rasa. So it is time up now. I can continue, but I don't want to hold you all. The science of rasa is very interesting. So we will continue in the next week. I will send these slides. Please go through it and you will find it interesting. We will now see the mental rasa and then we'll come to the spiritual rasa. And then I will give the overview of the southern division of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Science Rasa, so that now you will at least, this is like a trailer so that you can study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So any other questions, any other clarifications anyone has can raise their hand now. Yes, Ratna Mataji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. A little clarification, Prabhu. Anubhava and Sanchari Bhava. Anubhava is the non-spoken expression, Prabhu?
Oh, not like that. Anubhavas, what follow after Vibhava are voluntary actions. There is some disturbance from your side. Yeah. Anubhavas are voluntary actions following the Vibhav. Vibhav is that which stimulates the Sthahi Bhav. It stimulates the Sthahi Bhav. Just like Krishna is coming from the forest. Mother Yashoda has Vatsalya Prem for Krishna. And the Uddipans are the sunset, the Godhuli, which is happening. And these Uddipans, now Mother Yashoda's heart, starts, overflowing with Vatsalya Ras. Krishna is coming, Krishna is coming. She has not yet seen Krishna. She has only seen the sunset and she's seen the Godhuli. And these are acting as Uddipans. They are stimulating the Sthahi Bhav, Vatsalya Ras. Now at last she sees Krishna, the Vishaya Alamban. And in the Ashaya Alamban, what happens? The Vatsalya Ras manifest. Now, seeing the Vibhav, the love which is there for Mother Yashoda towards Krishna, the emotions, bhava are emotions. Bhava is also love. Now, Anubhavas are what follow Vibhav. So, what does Mother Yashoda, how does Mother Yashoda voluntarily show her love for Krishna? Is she opens her arms. We have all seen that Krishna picture. Where Krishna is coming, running towards Mother Yashoda, and Mother Yashoda has, opened her arms to embrace Krishna. So these voluntary bodily actions are called as with Anubhavas. But there are some heightened emotions which can happen. These heightened emotions are called as transient emotions, as Srila Prabhupada says. Now, just like in an ocean, there are very high waves, suddenly high tide of waves which come, and then they suddenly fall in the ocean. So similarly, there can be heightened emotions which can happen, which actually embellish the Sthahi Bhav. Just like when Krishna was in the Kaliya coils. Mother Yashoda's Vatsalya Bhav had gone to an height. Oh my Krishna, she was about to give her life. So her Vatsalya Prem went to a height. And then she suddenly collapsed. What happened to my Krishna, Then when Krishna suddenly, started dancing on the Kaliya stand, she was okay. So these Sanchari Bhavs, or they are called as Vabhichari Bhavs, they are transient emotions which go at a very height, just like waves, which come in the ocean go at a very height, and they fall down. So these transient emotions, further embellish the Sthahi Bhav. Whereas Anubhavas are voluntary emotions which are done out of love. like Mother Yashoda opening her arms. So that is the difference between Vibhava and Sanchari Bhav. Now, since Satviki Bhavas is one which is remaining, just to give an understanding, Satviki Bhavas are emotions which spring from the soul and manifest on the body, like the Ashta Satvik Vikars, the hair standing on end, there is horrification, tears coming from the eyes. Now, Mother Yashoda seeing Krishna, she opens her arms. This is a voluntary action, but she doesn't say, hairs, please stand on your end. No, she doesn't say that. They involuntarily happen because of the heightened, emotions which are springing from the soul, which manifest on the body. So the Satviki Bhavas are involuntary actions, whereas the Anubhavas are voluntary actions. Okay? Fine. So we will stop here. Sorry, I took a little more time because the discussion was just going on and I could not stop in between. So next week we will continue with the mental rasa and then the spiritual rasa. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.